We want to bring in Don Baer. He is the former speechwriter and communications director under President Clinton. Don, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Do you think we'll get some substance from the president today? What are you expecting?
I don't think we're going to get more than we've had, right? I mean, he did the Oval Office address. He's talked at the Pentagon. You're not going to see any more. I mean, the strategy, such as it is what's out there now. The big question, of course, is there are a lot of big questions, but one of them is this is now a major political issue, right? This is the major issue in the campaign right now. Terrorism, what our response to it is, how we're going to deal with it.
And?
Well, and you're going to see it fought out. The Democrats are going to be talking tomorrow night. You saw the Republicans. That's all that they talked about, basically. And it's hard to sort of, for me, to parse the differences between and among the candidates for the most part, except for no-fly zones or whatnot. But, you know, that's what the issue is. And you look at the polls. I was with a bunch of executives yesterday, and they were polled, about 100, 200 of them. And it was interesting. Economic growth and terrorism, the two most important issues for them. And I'm sure 2 weeks ago you would have seen economic growth only.
Right. National security, #1 issue for people right now, for sure.
How would you, if you're going to put a letter grade on the president's response, not even in policy, but just how he has spoken to the American people, A to F, where does he fall?
I don't give letter grades, but
how about numerical?
Tonally, he's not being tough enough. He's not being strong enough. The country right now is afraid. Right? Perhaps understandably so. I mean, San Bernardino, Paris, fear of things that could happen over the holidays going forward. By the way, we are probably a lot safer than people understand we are. But that's one of the problems. People need to understand. They need to be reassured. And the tone of leadership right now doesn't need to be bellicose. It doesn't need to be warlike, but it needs to be reassuring and strong.
How about that? Like, I mean, today, going to San Bernardino is basically an empathetic motion. I mean, you have some compassion there, so you can have that, but being tough, like we had Trump's guy sitting in that chair, and he's like, it's all about being tough. So what happens if something happens over the holidays? Obama's going to be in Hawaii. Are you going to see tough?
It doesn't matter where he is, right? The presidency sort of travels with him, and he'll be able to communicate with the country. But again, I do think tonally people need more. And President Obama's style is a whole lot more sort of thoughtful, and he sort of leans back a little bit more. I don't think the country wants someone now who is tough to a fault, right? They don't want someone who's just being tough to be tough. But what they do want is a sense of resoluteness and certainty about what we're doing.
And I don't think it's necessarily that he's been sort of laid back, and that it's just because that's who he is. He's laid back. He's been reluctant to call it terrorism. He's been reluctant to see what's going on and actually acknowledge that terrorists are actually not contained and they're not on the run at all.
I don't disagree with you. I will say this, having worked in the White House, having worked for a president, when you're president, the power of what you say can be a really stunning thing. And you have to do it cautiously. It's different than being Donald Trump and being a candidate out there on the campaign trail. It just is. And you've got the power of America, of the United States, behind you. That said, the country needs a presence, and it needs this sort of sense, again, tonally, that we are strong, we are going to deal with this, we are dealing with it. So I do think that there's more there that's necessary.
Let me ask you a communications question. So everybody wants to hear, exactly. So everyone wants to hear bomb them, because that feels good, and frankly, it's fairly easy compared to how do you make the moderate Sunnis in Syria and Iraq actually fill the void that would be created if we killed everyone from ISIS and blah, blah. It's very complicated stuff. How, as a leader, do you tell the cool, fun stuff that people want to hear, but also make it clear that this is a complex issue we've got to solve?
So leaders don't get to deal in cool, fun stuff, right? That's the problem, right? Leaders have to parse what they say. But again, this is where the balance is, but be able to say it in a clear way, because it is complex, right? These are difficult problems. They've been vexing presidents and leaders for decades.
But people don't want to hear that.
That's right. And so what they do want to hear is, we are dealing with it, we're going to deal with it. Sometimes it's a great idea, throw out a few proof points. Here's what we have done. Here's what we have stopped.
What did you think on the debate on that front? Now, Bush had this moment with Trump, which is you can't insult people. It's not just about being tough. And what did you think about Bush in that moment?
I thought Bush was tough in his explanation to Donald Trump about how it's not just about talking tough, right? I mean, Bush knows, right? He understands. He knows what his brother had to do. He knows what his father had to do. He's seen what leaders have to do. This is not as easy. And by the way, the American people are smart. right? They understand it's not simple, right? But they do want to hear, and they want to hear from their leader. And again, I don't mean to overemphasize tone, because there's a lot of substantive issues here that are complicated and difficult. But they want to hear. They want you to talk to them. They actually want you to explain it to them.
Trump's leading for a reason.
Trump is talking, that's for sure,
Yeah.
and continuing to talk.
Don, good to see you.
Great seeing you all.
Thanks so much, Don Baer there. First